on theological arguments from computer programming design, etc. It is not a problem that God could be concerned with human life on earth in a vast universe, or that evil thought can exist in human society. God evidently has plans to correct the latter at the day of judgment, if not earlier. Aren't computer programmers concerned with a few bits that don't function rightly in the context of millions of lines of computer code, or even billions? God with omniscient power can concern himself with the higher forms of being. People aren't solely inanimate or unthinking objects. Human minds are essentially spiritual, experiencing matter rather than being only an expression of matter that does not think of itself as perhaps helium atoms. It is possible to ask with the psalmist, God, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and understand that Jesus Christ has brought humanity the grace for an even closer personal relationship with the one God. God creating a universe of universes perhaps simply cancels out sections of alternate potential to allow particular potential to emerge and form within a given spatio-temporal context. If the one issues an emergent pre-universal field, a virtual uncertainty to permit contingent access of freedom of motion and potential, it is possible that the one is interested in mind and spirit more so than inert matter that is not so interesting. The one may be like a playwright issuing characters, more interested in them than in the stage props. In the midst of nowhere, utopia is a potential, ever receding beyond a horizon of temporal change that even the characters of evil chase after, if only for the chance to control beingness. God is good. If the faithless lack insight into spiritual things and pursue the best case temporal island hopping of matter as if they were diminishing pieces of ice at sea, drifting south, it is yet necessary to learn what one has faith in or about. The analogy by computer programming has limits, obviously. For one thing, humanity doesn't perhaps know what the purposes of the program are, nor what is set to be accomplished. Character development, if anything. Some physicists have speculated that the universe is like a hologram information, and of course, it could be more than a reflection of the human technology analogs of the era. I think it is interesting that the human mind experience occurs at just the right scale in space-time history for philosophical speculation. Without challenges, it might be like a state of entropy, existentially experiences economic and ecospheric malaise. There are cosmological theories of the universe, one being rebooted periodically. Since you suggest that, or you may suggest, or may consider that point membrane gong theory, the Big Crunch, hyper-expansion, the Big Rip, etc. It is possible that the teleology of the universe isn't static, like cosmological constants may or may not be. Moving targets in space-time, form, and purpose could coincide. It is somewhat undesirable to address several points simultaneously that are worthy of quite a bit more time than I presently have. Many of the questions presented are classic points, well written by many scholars through history. I would like to say that the use of WHYH as a name for God is of its day. There are additional names such as the God of Abraham or the God of Isaac, Elohim, and so forth, the last name probably arising during the redaction of the court in northern Israel. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my downsitting and uprising. Thou understandest my thought afar off. This is Psalm 139. Thou compassest my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. Thou hast beset me behind and before, and laid thine hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it. Whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. The idea that God is omniscient and omnipotent is ubiquitous in the Old Testament. Consider God's personal conversation with Job. We are naturally brought to consider the nature of God from the many references in the small books of the Bible. Reason and logic, too, bring the philosophically inclined to consider the attributes of God as creator. Consider the Neoplatonist philosopher Plotinus as Enneads and his ideas about the One. In this context, one as being philosophically rather than legalistically minded. Instead of searching for anecdotal or even physical evidence, one is exploiting the powers of reason to consider the universe and the concept of the nature of its creator. One is considering the nature of God and of the acts of God in shaping existence, and considering the nature of God as an omnipotent, non-contingent being with humanity and the universe existing perhaps within a perfect area set aside by God. One may consider the universe as a kind of monologic paradigm with set theoretical attributes and generate literate logics of necessity of those universes. With Quine's ontological relativity in mind, we may be aware that our object ideal lexicons comprise respective conceptual ontology in our subjective psychological outlook. And again, following Quine, we are aware that some of these lexical ontologies cannot immediately be translated into other ontologies by each user of the universe.